Welcome to our talk today about scale and how to connect your Pi systems from on-prem into the cloud. My name is Janelle Minich. I'm a product manager here at OSIsoft. I have been working especially on the Pytho OCS piece and a little bit about claims as well. And with me is my colleague Laurent Garrigues, sorry, and he's our strategic product manager for the cloud as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'll just use the mouse. Great. All right, so I just want to give you a brief overview of what we're going to cover today in the agenda. We'll talk a little bit about how you can get started with OCS, some basic use cases around that. Then we'll talk about, for those of you who might not know or haven't heard already, what Pytho OCS actually is. We'll talk about what's supported in the first version, a recommended architecture, and again, what can you do with the data once it's up there, our future plans, and then time for questions, hopefully at the end. Okay? But with this, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my colleague Laurent and let him share a little bit about how you can get started.
Thank you, Janelle. So in the spirit of a great demo, we're going to try to do that the last thing first and essentially show you how to get an account with OCS. But the minimal thing you need to know, a bit of context. Let's assume I'm a process engineer. I'm working for a fictitious company named Unified Petroleum. I just want to get an OCS account. I heard about that at the UC. That's fantastic. Get my data into OCS and make it available to a partner, a vendor, or somebody else, or maybe a data scientist within my company. So how do I do that? Essentially, it would look like, as soon as possible, browsing a list of streams within OCS, training the data. At this point, I'm done. Somebody else can do magic with that and derive value. So all I need to get started is my first name, last name, the name of my company, an alias that's going to be kind of unique across all the people within OSI, and how I'm going to decide to authenticate with the platform. We heard about that ad nauseum over the last couple of days, so I'm not going to get over that again. And let's look at the demo. How does it look like? If we can start that. So you can see anything, especially people who decided to stay on the back, because that's very minuscule. But essentially, that's a page you don't have available yet because we're not released. So the one we have is just a request for sign up. This one will be the sign up page where you put the information, the identity provider. And when you do that, what happens is actually receive an email. And when I say the request for provisioning, and you'll see that coming across, I'm going to drag that from a different screen when I recorded the demo. And with that, I'm going to click on a link that's going to bring me to an operational portal where I can actually decide the provisioning. I'm vetted that that's a valid request. It doesn't come from a weird country or people we don't know, we don't do business with. And when I do that, provision right away, now we're sending an actual invitation email to the actual user who signed up. We tell him his alias company and the identity provider and the link he should be using to activate. So the whole process takes about 5 minutes, depending on how available I am to look at the email, the first one. And then from that point on, you can actually use your alias and sign up in your account. So now I am within the account. I'm just going to validate who I am in my profile and my company. So that's you have a quick summary of your company. You have a logo if you want to, not necessary. I'm identifying with Google. Personally, I can see my personal information, also the role that I have into the system. I'll show you that later. And the next thing I need to do is probably invite Janelle because she's a Pi admin and she's going to actually deploy Pi to OCS, not me, because I don't have the details. So what I'm doing next is just adding Janelle as a user. So essentially, we just take care of activating the first user by sending you an email. After that, it's on you to invite who you want, and you authenticate them the way you want. I give her like full privileges. She's going to be admin as well. And eventually, I'm going to wait for her to sign up. This is not going to happen because she's not there right now. The last step for me is to create a namespace, so it's an environment within OCS. At this point, the account is kind of empty. It only has users. So essentially, I'm just defining that namespace. Eventually, when we're going to support multiple regions, I'm going to be able to pick a region. So for now, it's only West US, but it could be Europe in a couple of months from now. And this one takes a bit of time because now we're actually provisioning a lot of resources at the back end for everything, but I just sped it up here. I'm looking at my connection, nothing. My SQL data store is empty. But I've done my job. I'm ready. It took me a good 10, 15 minutes to get all set up. And I'm going to wait for Janelle to sign in and continue with that. So that's kind of the demo, the provisioning to get an account. That's very quick and simple. At this point, I'm Unipetro, one of the account within the multi-tenancy of OSIsoft. And we went over that slide also on Monday and this morning again. But essentially, that's kind of different componentry you have in OCS. I don't really care about that. I know how to authenticate. I got my SQL data store ready with a namespace, one of those black box. And what Janelle's going to talk about is how you can set up the native integration with the Pi system, on-prem, and OCS. Janelle, take it away.
Thanks, Laurent. All right, so if you were at the kickoff meeting this morning, I promised you that I would show you a demo of how you set up the connection from Pi to OCS, so that's what this is going to be here. Is it started? Just next. Okay, great. So I've logged into my cloud. I'm going to be using that same account that Laurent just set up for me, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. I have to know my alias of the company. It's Unipetro in this particular case. That's our company that we're setting this up for. And then I get to pick which of my Google accounts I'm going to authenticate with. So I'm going to use my OSI name there. And now you can see that I'm signed in under Unified Petroleum. So the first thing to do is to go set up a connection. So I'm going to go open that guy up, and what you can see, like Laurent said, there's nothing set up currently. So I pick the namespace that he set up for us just moments ago, development, and I'm going to click the Add button, and we're going to have an opportunity to set up a connection. So you can call it whatever you'd like. I'd recommend something that makes sense to the data you're bringing across. So I'm going to call this Unit 1 data, and test data from Unit 1 as the description. And what you can see is that it doesn't have the name of the Pi server configured there yet, but then it prompts me to download the installation kit. So this is all being done from the cloud portal. And so once I've downloaded that kit, I am going to run it locally. So the Pytho OCS agent does not run in the cloud. That does run locally where you are. I'm going to run that guy, and it's going to ask me for a couple of things. So it's going to ask me for the name of my alias, which we just said again was Unipetro, so I'm going to put that in. And then it's going to ask me to log in to Unipetro again, but with the Google account that I enabled, that I said that's the one I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and type in those credentials and my password, my super secret password. Okay. And then once I've authenticated using claims like this up into the cloud, the next step is to tell it the name of the data archive I wish to retrieve data from. So that's called Bifrost Wonder Woman, or it's truncated, but that's our server name, so I'm putting that in. And then what Windows account can I read data from to that Pi server? So it's using Windows permissions on-prem to authenticate and read the data from your Pi system. And that's it. I click install. This is not fast-forwarded. This is real. This is what really happens. And you can see it's very quick. And I click close, and then let's see what is reflected on our portal screen. So we have a connection now, Unit 1 data that wasn't there before. The Pi system says not configured, but if I refresh my screen, you'll see that that will come up. Additionally, any kind of messaging, whether it was successful or there was a failure or something like that, you'll see that in that little tray in the bottom. There's a little bell down there. So that was just saying that it was installed. So I hit refresh, and now you can see my Pi system is reflected there in the connection. So it's really that quick and easy to set up a connection to your Pi system. So, but the next step is you're going to want to transfer data. So we're going to add a transfer. And right now we can search by tag name and point source. So I'm going to go real super generic and just grab everything from my interface with the point source of R. Maybe you've seen some of these tags before. Good old friend Sinusoid and CDT158 are demo tags that come with every Pi system. Now in this particular case, I happen to know that I only started collecting data since Valentine's Day of this year, so I'm going to put that in as the start time of when I wish to bring in history. So as long as you have history online in your data archive, you can really say for any time period that you want. So I'm going to be trying to set up the time when the data started collecting, which was about around 5 p.m. or so on the Valentine's Day of this year. I've made a mistake, so I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to say add transfer. Great. And there's another little alert in the bottom of your screen that says the transfer was added, the transfer was saved, and I can even expand that and see all of my messages just to show you what that looks like. And now I have control over my transfer, so I can start and stop the transfer. It currently is stopped status, idle, not transferring anything. The percentage of the transfer is 0 because we haven't started it yet, but I can click the Start button. So again, this is the central management now. I'm doing this part in the portal. I've clicked Start. The status is updated. That's reflected here. And it takes a second for it to actually start that data transfer. It's doing the login, and now you can see that it started. It's sending not only historical data, but also streaming data. And for us, streaming data means every new archived value that comes in. So if we had the time period of what we're transferring, once we've completed that transfer, any new value that comes in is considered streaming data. But the next thing to do is to verify that data is coming in. So I'm going to my sequential data store and go to streams, and I can see the list. So already you see all the tags that we just brought over. And I can pick one and go to the little database button and see some data. So I see a current value there, 167.7698. And if I select range of values, I can get a list. I give it a start time and tell it how many values to retrieve. I'll get a tabular list in the bottom, but also we'll see a trend of what's been happening there. So that's it. That's as quick and easy as it is to set up a connection to your Pi server in your facility, in your organization, and bring that data up to the cloud. Roughly 5 minutes. So, all right? Great. So for those of you who hadn't seen this slide before, we talked about it this morning and again on Monday, but what is Pytho OCS? It's a native way for you to transfer data from your on-prem Pi system up into the cloud. It's central, simple, and secure. So central meaning the central configuration, which we just showed you in the demo. Basically everything except for the install kit is done through that OCS portal. It's really easy. It's really simple to install. You saw how easy that was. It does run on-prem. It is off-the-shelf software, so you don't have to worry about managing custom code or anything like that. We'll keep that up to date for you. It's secure, uses the claims. We saw that in action as well. And then it is the best of the breed of data transfer software that we've built so far. So if you've used Pi2Pi, if you've used connectors, this is just like the next version past that, where there's very little configuration for you to do. You don't have to worry about building tags and data streams. You just say, these are the ones I want, and it'll suck it up and bring it over. So you might be wondering, what does the first version of Pytho OCS support? What kind of data can I transfer? So let's talk about that for a moment. So of course we bring over historical time series data, and we also bring over the streaming data, which I mentioned a minute ago, but that is, again, every new archived value that comes into your data archive. We support the transfer of Pi Classic points and base points. So base points you might often see as a result of an analytic that you've built, so you can bring that information over. And the other real benefit is you can bring the data from many Pi data archives up into a single namespace in OCS, so then you can eventually do your data science and advanced analytics and things like that on all that data in one place. So another benefit of Pytho OCS and the cloud, really in general, is the emphasis on manageability and reliability. We've been working for a long time, and I've been doing a lot of research for the last several years about how to make your systems more manageable. And so as a company, we know that's a really important thing to you. We need to make this easy. You saw how easy the installation was and the provisioning and all of that. But other things that are really manageable stories here are the fact that because this is in the cloud, we're managing the servers for you, so you guys don't have to worry about upgrades of the servers. You don't have to worry about that downtime. That's all going to be seamless to your end users. You're not going to see a thing there. So it's going to be really, really nice for you. We already talked about the central configuration a couple of times, but that's a great way to keep it manageable because you go to one place to do everything, which is very nice. And that is including not only your data transfers, but also your security. And then with the cloud software, we're able to be a lot more agile in our release cycle. So with the traditional on-prem Pi software, you're probably used to upgrades every 6 months. Maybe you don't even upgrade that frequently. That's about as frequently as we've been doing releases for the last few years. But with the cloud software, we're really able to do this about every 3 weeks. And so you're going to start to see new enhancements or fixes or whatever, but it'll be the most reliable versions available every 3 weeks. And for the on-prem, that Pytho OCS agent, we may not release a new version of that every 3 weeks, but we will be releasing it at a very regular release cadence. So the next thing you might be wondering is, okay, well, how do I install this? Like, what's the architecture? Where does it go? What do you recommend? So let's talk about that. Okay. So on the bottom layer of our slide here, we have your on-prem Pi system. Okay, that's your Pi server. We would recommend that you install the Pytho OCS agent on a separate computer so that your Pi server can be free to service all of its requests that it normally has and do all the work that it normally does. So you would install the Pytho OCS agent on a second computer, and that's the computer that has access to the internet. That's the other thing, is usually our customers probably don't want to put the Pi server on the internet, so this is another reason why you'd want to separate that. But as I mentioned, it is secure, and so once you have that installed and set up, you have that secure connection from your Pi server all the way up into the cloud, and that data gets stored into a namespace. And if you saw the slide this morning, this is kind of a different version of that, but the idea is that you can have as many different plants or facilities really worldwide and sending that data up into the cloud so that everybody can, again, go to that central place to look at it and see what to do, make those decisions. So with that, what I'm going to do now is going to hand it back over to Laurent. He's going to tell you more about what you can do once you've set up these connections and these transfers and what you can do with the data in OCS.
Thank you, Janelle. So that's going to be the fun part. Most of it has been demoed by Chad this morning in the keynote, but I'm going to try to do the stuff he couldn't do live. So essentially, the next step you see, getting an account is super fast. Moving the data is also super fast. You get to a place, you got a bunch of data in OCS. You can train it, validate. It's good. The next thing you want to do is probably share it with somebody else within the company or outside the company. So how do you manage access control and roles? How do you manage programmatic access with a client ID? And maybe we'll get over some code samples. So I'm going to switch to the real thing, and we're going to just check where we are with our Unity Petrol. So I'm not a fast typer, so be patient, but at least it'll be fun. Probably a lot of mistake while I'm typing. Okay, so that's a private session in Chrome. I'm going to allow the cookie, even though I'm not in Europe, it doesn't matter. I trust you that you're not using my personal information for bad things. We actually keep very minimal information, nothing really personal. I mean, most of that information belongs to your company, not yourself. And I'm going to sign in, and that's going to be my alias again. In Petro. I had to put a second pair of glasses, like actual useful one, not the one I have to tie my hair. And I'm going to use Google. Since then, we added a second identity provider to Unipetro, so now we can have people authenticated using Microsoft account. And you can spam me because that's my real Gmail account if you want to. Not this one. And that's recorded, and not this one either. Maybe I confuse you enough so you don't remember what it is. We'll see about that. Okay, and I'm in. And when I signed in, Chad mentioned that, but I think I got an update from the latest stuff that's been pushed. So this one is pretty recent. That's interesting. I'm just going to go directly to my user and roles and see what happened. So we had quite a few more people added to the account because we use that account for demo purposes at the Product Expo. So we had a bunch of people from OSI. I just want to point out that myself, I'm actually a user with two different profiles. So one is my Microsoft account, and one with my Google account. My Microsoft account, if I'm looking at my credential, my roles, I'm just a member, so I only have real access to data in OCS. And I'll get back to that. I'll log into the second session in a different browser using that account as well. Just going to see what else happened with the connection, whether we still data flowing. So I see some people created some dummy configuration to fake data. This one is still working, transferring data for those 15 points. Our beloved Paul developer created another one. We have a development bug. So this one is actually something connected to my thing. So this one is actually connected but not configured. So from here I can show you a live query to some transfers. So if I do a star and another star, if you have to put something in there, if you have nothing, it doesn't work. And run the query, you'll see I have a little more points than what we show with Janelle. So I got like close to 2,000 points. And I can select some of them, rerun the query, and add the transfer. I'm not going to do that, but I could. So I want to go back to managing roles, okay? So you saw I'm here as Laurent. Check my profile again, and I'm using Google, okay? And if I'm looking at my account detail, my account said I can use either Google or Microsoft, which is good. I did put a company logo that I didn't have before, so that's cute. And what I'm going to do is just Firefox, which chat told me is like outdated and not really useful anymore, but that's a different browser. So let's go at cloud.osisoft.com. I'm just making sure that I don't have any cache credential from different browser or different things. So using 2 different browsers should make that pretty obvious. I love the cooking again. I'm going to sign in. Still Unipetro. But this time I'm going to use my Microsoft account, and that's different. So I'm going to try to not mistype this one too much. That's me. And that's a different password. Good. Ask me again. He did happen to chat this morning, and I'm not sure why, but I'm here. I'm in. If I'm looking at what is that one I want to look at? I think if I try to use my profile, there's a bug. My profile doesn't work. Okay, so that's as a member, I cannot look at my profile, which is the thing we need to fix. Yes, Chad, you can find that different, but essentially I should be able, my profile being different and me being logged in as a Microsoft account. So that's, I'm going to go away from that if I can, get to my account detail and go to something else. So I can pretty much see the same thing, but not all the same thing, okay? So what I'm going to do now is go back to my other session, my different browser, and go at the SDS thing, look at all the stream, and I was playing with that yesterday. We have another bug, but that's fine. But essentially, out of the 15 stream we have, I can see 13 of them because I locked myself out for 2 streams. But what I'm going to do is say, okay, let's say for the people who are only members, they're not going to be able to see a certain stream, okay? So again, go back to this one and see what I can see from those things here. With that profile, I can see the same thing, okay? So we kind of deny to both the same thing, being an account administrator or member. We can see 13 stream out of 15. What I'm going to do here is say, okay, let's say the first, those stream here, I'm going to change the permission. And if I can get access to that, and I say for people who are member, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to lock myself out again. Let's see. I'm just going to let me do only one. At the member, I'm going to remove read access for member on the Bifrost Wonderland 11. Okay? And if you can do Control minus to get access to the save, because I got a low resolution here. Okay? So here I can refresh the page. I'm still in my Chrome. I'm still using my Google account. I can see still 13 stream. And if I get to my Chrome session and I refresh, where I'm only a member, I can only see only 12 of those 15 streams. So the 11 one has been blocked to me because somebody with my role said, well, you cannot create those streams anymore. Okay? So I know it feels like a bit not convoluted, but like a bit tedious to show. But that's really the crux of delivering a platform that's secure and actually manage permission and access for people from the start, from the get-go. So this is me, two interactive users trying to be with different roles, having access to different things. So what would happen if I wanted to actually have an application doing that? Let's say I got trained miner, Metis, or Seek wanting to connect their application. What I would like to do actually is actually create a client key here. And when I create one, I'm doing the same thing. I'm actually defining a role for that key. And if I don't use the default roles, what I can do is actually here create my custom roles for specific credential or specific access to specific things. So you can go and add a role, and let's say this one going to be like a service provider, and that's going to be for Seek. Okay, and now I couldn't because I'm probably still in my Firefox thing, but I could if I move to this one. So as a member, I cannot create roles. That's normal. Service provider. Too bad for the spelling mistakes. And that works. And then here I can add a client with whatever name and pick up that specific role for accessing the data. Okay, so now you understand how you can either for user or for a role or an application get separate access to a separate set of stream, and you can manage that. And also, I didn't show you that, but when you invite those people, like interactive users, also define what kind of identity provider, if it's like a person signing up, you want to give them access to. What the client access gives also me is that I can look at detail, and right away I got sample codes on how you should authenticate and connect to that. So when I'm giving that to Seek, they know how to do that and connect the application, look at the set of stream I made them available to them, and actually run the application, or for me to connect through my data via their application to get the value I want to. So that was a quick overview of what you would do next with the data. We're going to go back to the slides. That's what I did. And I'll let Janelle continue with the plans.
Okay. Thank you, Laurent. Okay. So let's talk about the new roadmap for Pytho OCS. So what we're working on right now is what you saw today, supporting data transfer from your on-prem up into the cloud, Pytho OCS data transfer, with the central configuration and management, and the security. So that's all coming out. We're projecting June for that. We're in beta right now. The things that we're thinking about doing after this first release is to improve your experience for searching for data. So you might have noticed it was just a tag search with a tag name and a point source. We're doing some research actively right this week actually about how to improve that for you guys. Another thing is how do we support persistent updates? So if you were to recalculate something in your Pi system, or if you were to backfill data, how could we automatically transfer that data back up? And also supporting parallel data transfers. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if it was clear, but right now we support one data transfer within a single agent. And so we know that we probably need to support more than that. You might have different sets of data that you want to have different time ranges for, that you want to bring across. So we're looking into how to support that. And then the other thing, it's been alluded to today, we're going to be supporting the EMEA data center. So if you want to keep your data in your region, some countries have laws about that. We'll be bringing that data center online in our next release. And in the future, past the next release, things we're looking at, researching, is what if we could not only upgrade the server side and make that seamless for you, but what if we could automatically upgrade the Pytho OCS agent for you too? And would that be interesting? And if you have strong opinions one way or the other, I'd really love to hear about that. And then also the idea of maybe a different architecture. So maybe we could support many transfers to many Pi servers within a single agent. So across many Pi servers, not just one Pi server with multiple transfers. So these are some things that we're looking at for the future. And with that, I'm going to say that if you do have feedback and we don't get a chance to talk in person today, you can always send feedback to our feedback channel, which is feedback.osisoft.com. We do look at that on a regular basis, and we use the information that you put there or the enhancements and requests that you vote on to help us decide what we're going to be working on. So it is really absolutely something that we take a look at. Now, you've seen this slide 1,000 times in different formats. These are all over. You can't go see them anymore. They're done. But you can catch the recording if you missed one. So these are our slides, these are talks that did concern cloud that happened this week. So if there's anything here that's interesting to you, you certainly can catch that on the recordings next week when you get home. And if you want to contact us for more information, there's my information and Laurent's as well. I'll just go past that so you can't remember that. Okay, and then, I'm just kidding. I don't know, it's like, we might have a little bit of time for questions, so if you want to ask questions from Laurent or myself, we'd be happy to entertain those. Just come up to the microphone and state your name and company. Before I open that up, just a little housekeeping. If you didn't know already, Geek Night is tonight in the ballroom starting at 7, and if you didn't see, please come join us at Pyro the Mia this fall in Gothenburg. So anyway, go ahead, sir.
Hi, Matt Bailey from Western Area Power Administration. Quick question. So we're putting this data out in the cloud. Is there any plans, or maybe I missed it, where we can have access to PyVision then in the cloud that can talk to those Pi servers? Because obviously setting that up in our DMZs and getting people to access it, that's a challenge. So that might help.
Right. So it was kind of on one of your slides here, the future. We've got the idea that we're going to support analysis and visualization, context. All of those things are in the plans. I don't have a date specifically for when PyVision is going to be ready. The roadmap that I just shared was really more specific to Pytho OCS, but Laurent has one as well for PyVision. But you can see on this slide, visualization is definitely something we're planning to support. Do you have any more that you want to say about that?
No, so I think we're shooting for probably a preview by the next UC in Europe, and shooting maybe for a release a year from now here. But by that, depending on the scope, it could be a little faster.
Yeah. It's just so easy. You have no questions. I love it. Oh, no. Here's a question. Could you please go to the microphone?
Eastern Gu from Song Energy. Actually, we have a project shared with several 5 or 6 business partners about a couple hundred tags. So we would like to put it in cloud, and almost all our partners are using Pi as well. So is there any utility they can download from data from cloud to their Pi?
You'd like to write data from the cloud back to your Pi system? So that's not currently in the scope of our first release, but it is definitely a request I've heard a lot. And
yeah, so we have a product that does that already, and we released like 5 years ago, Cloud Connect, just the same thing. True. It just moved the data from a Pi system to another Pi system across corporation or within corporation. So if you don't intend to leave the data in OCS and do something bigger with that from that, I mean, Cloud Connect is probably a better solution. Eventually, that functionality will be moved to OCS and integrated, but for now, that would be an option.
Real quick, would 2 companies need to agree on a naming convention, or like if they just named, 2 different things, or could it translate it?
So eventually, the alias is really something you're gonna have a unique ID for your account. When you're signing up, if you trying to use an alias that's already used by somebody else, we're gonna let you know, and then it's probably a negotiation to see, okay, are you gonna change that? We have the same. Not challenge, but kind of limitation with Cloud Connect, but that's something that's not we can. It's just making it easier to know that you're unique when you log in, which can change. That's not a one-time decision forever. We can adjust over time if we need to.
Okay, very cool. And then second kind of part of that is, let's say one company classifies an asset as something as one whole item, and another company classifies that same asset as 2 pieces that add up to that same item. Like let's say a car suspension, One company calls it, struts and or front strut, back strut. The other one is just suspension. Is there a way to share? What would they have to do in order to share data about those things if they needed to for service and stuff like that? Is that possible yet?
So are you talking about multiple Pi server fitting into the same OCS?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we make sure that there is no collision, so even the name could be the same, and we showed that this morning, but essentially we keep the ID and the unique identifier from the source server and their ID, so they might have the same name or different name. Mm-hmm. Then we have like flexible searching capability within OCS to say, okay, I want to get to all the star, and as long as you get some resemblance of multiple things across multiple server, you can actually get all those streams within OCS in one bucket.
Okay.
So,
cool.
after that, when you want to build data views for data science or do other things, it'll be easier to find those things.
Okay, thank you.
Before we wait for the next question and before people leave, I forgot to mention on Tuesday during my talk is that we're shooting for GA January 1st, but we're going to still in preview for 7 to 8 weeks. So if you want to get started now, don't have to wait for GA. So please sign up, and we'll manage to give you an account so you can try it out before we get there.
Any other questions?
No? Party
Okay.
time.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.